that you should expect. And it starts with a letter from me, sort of just saying, here's what what my vision is of the office, and particularly so the report is annual report, and it's the fiscal year annual report, which means FY 2025, which closed in July, right? June, end of June of last year. Okay. So this report was 6 months ago for the prior year, fiscal year, right? For folks that don't, because the fiscal year set in sometimes it's confusing, but it's from July to June of the next year.
Got it.
Right. So, and I had been appointed to this position May of 2024. So that would be more or less the full fiscal year, because that fiscal year ended that June, right? And then July, August, September, and then rolled into 2025. So that's where this report is. And it talks about, and for those that don't know, perhaps I should talk about the office a little bit.
Please, yes.
Even before I got there, right? So that people can have a context of the office. And so the office was created in December of 2020, right? If we remember correctly, this is around the time that COVID, we were mostly home because of pandemic, COVID-19. And number two, among many, but at the time, brother George Floyd was killed by Minneapolis, right, in Minnesota. And so that, as you may recall, even before that, at least for 10 years before that, there were black people being killed throughout the country, and every time that happened, there would be turmoil, there'd be social unrest, there'd be protests. So this culminated, though, I think, and that was the Black Lives Matter movement, right, which is still on, but that was sort of the framework of how this came to be.
Go ahead.
So after the murder of George Floyd, there was social unrest again and protests in the city of Boston and many other places throughout the country and throughout the world. And cities, calling for police reform, calling for changes within how we police in America. So cities throughout the country, including Boston, decided to do something about it. And particularly in our city, the mayor appointed a task force, a police reform task force they were called then. Which if Jamal is hearing this, I want to give him a shout out, because he's one of the members of that police reform task force, and among many. But I know Jamal is a frequent listener.
He is,
and so I'll give him a shout because it's important work that they all did.
That's right.
But he continues to be an advocate in this space. So. And I, as you might have seen, we were in his home. We had the forum last Saturday.
Yes.
So we'll get to that as well.
Okay.
But long story short, they made recommendations among many, as Jamal said, to how to provide oversight and change in how we police in the city of Boston. And one of those recommendations, among many, were to create this Office of Police Accountability. So it really gave the blueprint. That generated a ordinance, which is law for the city of Boston, that then set, it's about 10-page law, that sets up this office, and this office is designed with the purpose of being a single entry for individuals in the city of Boston with concerns and complaints against the Boston Police Department. I'm almost kind of paraphrasing me, almost verbatim into the first paragraph. Look, what is the purpose of the office? To provide oversight over the Boston Police Department. Now, so the office was created, again, the ordinance was created in 2020, late 2020. They hire an executive director, Stephanie Everett, who led the office for, I think, at least a couple of years. She was hired sometime in the spring, but really the office, by the time, again, you create a new agency, right? So no office space, no employees, no pretty much anything other than what's written, right, in law. So Stephanie, ended up finding space. Actually, our office at 2201 Washington Street in Newbern Square now, Old Dudley. Right in the community, if you will.
So you have an office there, presently?
Correct. That's the office.
It's not housed inside City Hall.
Correct.
Okay.
The whole team is in Newbern Square.
Okay.
So I came directly from there now to come to the segment. So she found office space, hired a team, and so on. Okay. Fast forward, really wasn't until January of 2022 that we opened doors, started taking cases, which now would make it 4 years. Okay, we're 2026 January now. Okay, and in that time we've taken in approximately 500 complaints. Now I'm kind of going into the structure of what the office actually does. Okay. I told you what the purpose is. Now I'll tell you how it functions.
Okay.
Okay. One of the critical things that the office does, I think, in order to kind of frame it, it's easier for me to tell you how things used to be. Which means, and people in our community know this, if you had any complaints against the Boston Police Department, where would you go? You would go to BPD, Internal Affairs, right, and ask them to file a complaint.
Yep.
Then you want to file a complaint, they'll do the investigation, and so on, right?
Yes.
Now, what is different, what our office is that now you don't have to go to BPD. In fact, we encourage you to come to this civilian entity independent of the Boston Police Department where you can file a complaint. And this entity, OPAT, can and does investigate the complaints. We have intake coordinators, we have investigators on our team. So we investigate the complaint. Okay? Now, my team, I'm the executive director, we are the OPAT administration, we are the staff. Okay, we're full-time employees. Now, what's perhaps revolutionary about the system that we have is that ultimately the decision of whether officer, an alleged misconduct is sustained, or if the officer is found responsible for doing something wrong, is made by civilians. This is where some of the boards that's again articulated in my annual report, you will see we have a 9-member board that, the city of Boston has many boards, I think over 100 boards in commissions, right? That primarily those are spaces where civilians, residents of the city can participate. They'll have the park commission, they have, related to arts, they have related to library, they have, commission in different spaces, like the Black Man Commission. That, another new entity, right, that we have in the city. So those, like folks that are non-employees of the city full-time, they come in and help help do the work, okay? So in our capacity, these folks, 9 members, appointed by the mayor, they're all from all over the city, they come in and make the decisions on the case. So it's almost as if when you go to court, right, you have, like my entity, or at least the OPAT administration, that's like the DA's office, put it that way. And the people that come in to make a recommendation and to vote on the case, those are the jury and the judge panel. So they come in required by ordinance at least every quarter, and they vote on the case. So we do an investigation, we submit the reports to them, and then we have a hearing, literally a hearing, at our office, where the complainant comes in. If there's any witnesses, they review. Obviously now you have the body cameras, the reports, 911 tapes, any number of evidence. They vote to decide whether the officer did something wrong or not. Okay, and then the next stage is that which is where the community meeting was around some of this dynamics, is that then we, my team in particular, we then type up a report and letter. The report goes online, by the way. All of our, people forget about this transparency side of our office, right? So people focus mostly on county, but they're like 2 pillars that go together. And transparency sometimes overlooked, but that's really critical, because really, if we didn't do the work around transparency, if the reports weren't available, if the letters sent to the commission weren't public, we wouldn't even have that forum that we had. People wouldn't be educated about what the system looks like, right? So that's critical, because as you know, I was not only was I a prosecutor years ago in 2011, I prosecuted cases in Boston. I was in Roxbury. I was in gun court. I prosecuted guns. I worked with police. I was part of the DA Conley's when Conley was in office. Okay, and then I was a state rep. I came many times and talked about the bills I was filing. I mean, this is not new in a sense, because you really can find tape of me talking about some of the bills I was filing, whether it was around special prosecutor. Remember, we talked about that because because Black Lives Matter, and police are killing people. So I know that sort of some of this, I come at this level with a lot of experience, if you will, in this space.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to kind of I digress a little bit. So they make the decision, and then the CRB, we call it CRB, is the Civilian Review Board. That's what's different.
Mm-hmm.
Before all decisions is made internally within BPD, you get a letter, and that's about it. Now, not only is everything public because all the reports are public,
Mm-hmm.
but the decisions are made by civilians. And I say civilians, I just mean residents.
Mm-hmm.
Civilian, I means not police officers, if you will, right? Now, the crux of what the meeting was about is that essentially the CRB, their decision now goes to the commissioner.
The commissioner
Of BPD.
Okay.
Of Boston Police Department. That's the infrastructure of the ordinance. That's how the ordinance articulated the decision-making process, and the commissioner has the final say whether to implement a disciplinary action against an officer or not.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And that's sort of Jamal being Jamal, right, in this space for decades, and pays attention, and he and I've talked plenty since I came in, for sure, and knows what's going on, and said, okay, that's what that meeting was about, because people are a bit frustrated with the setup, and because we've had, and one of the things that the commission is required to do, though, is that he's required to also send us a response, to say, oh, okay, I'm not going to do this, I'm doing this, kind of thing, right? And so there's been, unfortunately, many times where we send the recommendations, we don't hear back for months. And when we do hear back, he doesn't adhere to our recommendations. So that's sort of the frustration that both, again, it was in the Globe and it was in the Dark Reporter. It was it's community power, right? Talking about, the system, why is it the case, and why is he ignoring it, those kinds of things. So that's, I kind of jumped a little bit about, but I wanted to kind of frame as to how we got here, and where we are now, mm-hmm. right? Because some of these discussions are happening right now. And there were city councilors in this meeting on Saturday, and, again, advocates and members of the community, folks, definitely the heat was on in terms of, is the system of accountability of police in the city of Boston, is it working? What are the gaps? And so I come in, I was obviously at the table and was one of the panelists in the hot seat, if you will. But that's the job, and it's fruitful because
Mm-hmm.
our power of the office, though perhaps there's gaps in the ordinance, in the law, but our power source of the power is really from the people. I mean, because it was outcry of people that created the office. This was not something that elected officials and society wanted to just do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. This movement, it was years of people being killed, literally, and before, right, and people within, obviously the city of Boston, we have our own history of police misconduct. In fact, I was in Mission Hill early this morning for one of the things I've done since I started with Corey. Not sure if you saw, but that was Corey.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
We talked on the phone.
Yeah, so Corey, that was Corey. He's my community engagement, director, if you will. And we're doing office hours, coffee hours in every neighborhood. We've done, I've done it pretty much every other week, every other Friday in different parts of the neighborhoods. To talk to people, to let them see our brochure, to ask me questions, what's going on. And there was a gentleman there, and I know his name, but maybe I won't say it just because, I'll just say Mr. Burns, who lived in that neighborhood through, the Stewart case in Mission Hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
So really nice man, a black man, how he was pulled, how he got, like how they came in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, we know that, unfortunately, that's part of our history, and that's the one case that people, but we know many, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, we still have incidents of misconduct, and so we serve as a conduit for
Mm-hmm.
people to come in and make complaints, and we're handling those complaints. We also, again, collect information, which a lot of that is in my annual report in terms of who's, arrest data, like that. We have dashboards about complaints, about who's being stopped in the city of Boston and where, who's being arrested and where, so a lot of it is around transparency, having a debate, even what as I said last weekend, about what's going on in the community, which as someone who, as I was saying earlier, been in this space, it was a prosecutor, and not only that, it was an elected official. Before before 2020, you couldn't reports on police misconduct. You couldn't find it. Data, it wasn't just Boston. It was across the. Even as an elected official, I couldn't get this data, that data point. Like special reports of this is the report that we did. That investigative report of a misconduct. All of our reports that we produce, in every case, particularly those that go before the board, those are uploaded online for people to see and read and see the officer's name and what we think happened, didn't happen, and what we voted on. Right. So that never happened before. The decisions, and still this day, the decisions that the BPD makes, that internal affairs make on cases, they just internal. They're just in BPD. Now ours is there for people to see. Okay, so I've tried to sort of, I don't know if there was gaps in some of the things I was articulating, but I just kind of wanted to just frame it and then go to where we are now. But perhaps if you want, I could give you a couple highlights in terms of some of the things that's in the report.
Sure.
Some of it, again, I talked to, like, obviously Dorchester, we have the most amount. Dorchester is the biggest neighborhood in the city of Boston. So we have most of the complaints comes out of Dorchester. And C11 in particular, which, most of Dorchester, I think, is C11. Well, some of it go to, depending on where you are, is B2 as well. But Dorchester, I think, has the most amount of complaints. And let's look at this. I said this in actually was printed in the article as well, that in 2025, the fiscal year 2025, Black Boston, I think the population of black people in Boston is about 21.5%.
Okay.
However, we make up 45% of the arrests of VPD. We make up 37% of the FIOs. FIOs, they're like the stops. When police are approaching people and stopping people, those are called FIOs. Those are stops. And perhaps even more importantly, 45% of the arrests, 37% of the FIOs, and 56% of the other thing that we also collect and produce on our website is the incidence of use of force. So the use of force that were used again, on, and this is not like, justified or unjustified use of force, just use of force in general. 56% of the people that were subject of a use of force were black people in the city of Boston. So this is, again, this is some key findings that we have. As I said earlier, Dorchester has 25% actually, this is complaints that we get. So earlier I was talking about stops and arrests and so on and use of force for BPD. Now I'm talking about our complaints. We have dashboard about that too, like who's coming to complain to us, what nature of complaints, and so on. So Dorchester being 25% of all of our complaints, with what's second, I think is, I want to say, I'm trying to look now. This is kind of, it didn't print good for me, but South Boston is 11%. Roxbury, actually 6.6%. And so on. So, I mean, again, a lot of this information is on our website. But the other thing that I wanted to, really the crux of what I wanted to say here is that 46% of our complaints, I told you 46% of the people that were arrested were black people in the same time frame. Guess what? 46% of the people that complained in our office were black people.
Wow.
Okay, so the numbers, correlate to who's being, that's in a general sense, above the numbers, what it says is the contact, who's interacting with police more, in terms of who's being stopped and who's being arrested. Okay. Then again, that same number translates to who's coming to to complain to us. And so 46% of the people that came in to complain in our office are black people. And I will say this, I think this is also very important to know. Most of and it's kind of like being in the court system, right? Most of the things that you see in the court, people being arrested for, they're not being arrested for the felonies and the big charges. It's the small suspended license and shoplifting, which, you know, we call it small minor stuff, but they can add on as well. They're misdemeanors. Misdemeanors. Right? Most of the cases that are into the system it's not the sensational cases we see on TV and stuff. It's just a run-of-the-mill case, trespass and things like that. Okay, so I say that to say that even in our own space too, the thing that's the biggest complaint, almost 50% of the complaints that we see, it's so-called neglect of duty. That just means that people call the police or they encounter the police and they're asking police for help, and they felt that the police did not do an adequate job helping them, right? You see a lot of that. 911 calls, police comes in, people are just dissatisfied with what the police didn't write a report and things like that, okay? And then second component is another one that's a big one, is close to 18% of I told you the other one, neglect of duty, was 45%, close to 50%. And then the abuse, disrespectful treatment, 18%. So how do you interact with police becomes an issue, because people feeling like police are not treating them with respect. And then the third one and then is abuse of power. You know, police overstepping, if you will.
Sure.
And to be honest, and the use of force is actually only 3%. So it's sort of because the system changed because of the use of force, right? Literally death, people being killed. And right now, thank God, we're not having a lot of these happening anymore. And perhaps it's because, and I don't know, have data to back this up, but because maybe we have civilian, and it's not just in Boston, civilian entities like this exist throughout the country with their own challenges, different setup. But we know we're not seeing that as much as we used to see in the past, right? Doesn't mean they're not happening, but they're certainly not happening as we were seeing them before. But what was happening before and what's happening now is just sort of who's being stopped, who's being arrested, who's being impacted, who's complaining, who's got more to talk about this. So what I'm saying, you know, is that essentially, and this is what I think why Jamal did the forum, is that I think he said something about now we're worrying about rents and all these different things, which is invalid, but this is also an important issue, even though things are not being sensationalized like they were before, right? So, but long story short, for me, you know, I didn't talk about some of the other parts of the job, which I mentioned one board, which is the Severe Review Board, but we also have another board, which is called Internal Affairs Oversight Panel, which means, which essentially now people can still go to police department to file complaints. Excuse me. If they do, they have the option to appeal to our office the decision that BPD makes.
Okay.
So that's another board.
Okay.
That exists within our office. So just as I wrap up, I think, you know, one of the things I want to say, and I'm happy to take your question. And
sure.
One of the things I want to say is this: you know, May will be 2 years that I've been in this position in this May. I mentioned that Stephanie was there for a bit and then left. There was sort of this gap. In fact, I think it took them 9 months or so to hire the next GD, me. And so the office has sort of had some challenges, many of which, again, even that has been well publicized in terms of some of those challenges. But since I came in, I've focused a lot on community engagement. You and I have been talking about me coming here for at least a year.
Yes.
I'm glad that finally came. You know, as I mentioned, I'm doing, and we actually didn't even have community engagement before at all. The brochure that I have, I think I have a copy with me, is new. We didn't have that. So there's been, you know, this is new, something that we created since I started. So a lot of the work that I've been doing is sort of just perhaps doing some of the basic things, hire staff members. I didn't have a deputy, so it's been rebuilding the agency, getting up to standards. And right now, you know, I accomplished that in the last year and a half. And but what you're seeing now in the news, you could see now we're sort of using our power. We're doing some of the things we're supposed to do. Now the community is sort of seeing it, and then this, the heat is on, if you will, because we are doing what we're supposed to be doing. And I think, again, particularly after that meeting on Saturday, I think there's an appetite to continue to push the system, to continue to change the system. And, I'm happy to, it's a tough job. I mean, but I'm excited because I think for me personally, it's my purpose. Whether it's elected, whether it's this position or the other position, I like to serve like you do. You serve in a different capacity than me. That's why we sort of we do this together, hand in hand. But for me, being in the community, in the heat, it's not new, right? It's like, this is whatever I do it. I take it seriously and understand, particularly in this position, in all positions, certainly when I was elected, the source of power to me is the people. And so, and you answer to the people, you try to guide the people, you try to answer, but a certain amount of humility as well as hope. And so, because this is not a challenge that we can solve overnight, but I'm here to make sure that we move the needle forward.
Wow, thank you for that education, right, about its inception, right, and its progression.
Correct. Thank
to where we are now. With that said, I'm curious how. Okay, so like I said, this is a process, right?
Correct.
And I get it. Same thing with the Office of Returning Citizens.
Correct.
Right? There was an Office of Returning Citizens, right? And now we have an Office of Returning Citizens. First they had no, but then they had no budget. They had no staff, right? So having just the office, right? You don't have any teeth, and so the piece of legislation, right, the stuff that you had, didn't be able to hold folks accountable. So the progression, so the whole process or existence, the Office of Police Accountability and Transparency, you said it, but recap in terms of it's been in existence from when?
It's opened its doors now 4 years.
4 years. Opened its doors in
taking complaints.
Okay.
But it was created 5 years ago.
Okay. The vision, the concept,
the law,
the ordinance.
The ordinance, right? But then they had to, hire someone. This first executive director. They had to get an office. They had to get paper. They had to get a table. They had to,
Right.
So it took about. And then actually, the other thing that's also not I should emphasize is that we have, as I mentioned earlier, 15 board members.
Okay.
Or 14, 15, 9 on one side.
Okay.
And 5 on the other.
Okay.
And so those people have to be appointed to the mayor, many of which through the city council. All of that takes time and process, right? We had to interview people to get on the board and things like that. So to set up the system, the office took time, took about a year. And then it got going, and then Stephanie left after a little while. She's the registered probate. Yes. Good for her. And then it took them a while to find someone else, me, to come in.
So how, this is good, right? People have a place they can go to, they can, articulate their concerns, the transparency in terms of the things that are there. But if the commissioner is the ultimate person who is going to say, even with the appeals thing, right? If you're being appointing people, right, that are then appointed by the mayor, and the commissioner is appointed by the mayor,
correct?
Then how, even with transparency in terms of being able to see the things that are filed, the outcome in terms of really being able to hold accountable police officers, how do we push past that piece? So when this is the people, but the people can create it, the people can articulate it, and you can document it.
Right.
But if you can't do anything to really be able to address it, because the powers that be are elected, well, not only elected, let me just say, they're elected, but the mayor, who's elected is appointing the people whom are on the boards, then you understand, and then you're appointing the senior person being the commissioner. Those folks are going to be loyal to you. So I'm just trying to understand, how do we, how do we push it past just feeling like, okay, we can articulate what we've got a place in the community that we can go to. And I'm not criticizing. I'm just really being authentic and saying, like, how do we move it past, okay, I feel okay because I was able to articulate. Because if I go to the police station and you do, even if they're not going to even consider it, but if you feel better because you're seeing people in the community, you go into the place and you feel that it was communicated and you feel it was documented, but then it reaches so far, and then the commissioner, the mayor, the board gets to be able to say no, even with the appeals, then it just seems like an exercise in futility, no disrespect.
That was the crux of the frustration in that meeting. So you're not alone in that, and I empathize with it. I'm in the middle of it, right? I will say, however, that it's sometimes I think there's a saying around the wheels of justice is slow or something like that. So even within the criminal justice system, you have some of the same frustrations.
Absolutely,
right?
absolutely.
And so as someone who, again, I've been in the criminal justice in many different spaces, including the prosecutor, and making laws, if you will, is what I try to think about is where we were and where we are, and what potentially we could look like what the system could look like. So this is where, again, laws get changed, as it did, with the ordinance, with the uproar, right? with the society and the community leading it. What I can say is that the meeting that happened, that's the things that caused things to change, right? And I was in the middle of it. I felt it, right? And so my hope, again, is just sort of, and obviously I'm not, I have some thoughts in terms of how to improve the ordinance.
To improve the ordinance.
Right, to improve the system that you just, but the system that you articulated, that I've articulated, it's in the ordinance.
It's in the ordinance.
It's the law that says that the mayor appoints so and so, government. It's government, right? It's just municipal government. Everything flows from the mayor. But it wasn't this mayor, Michelle Wu, who appointed me. She's not the one that created it, right? Because remember, she was not mayor at the time. Doesn't mean she can't change it now. Or obviously, the bulk of the city council has changed too, right? Since 2020, right? Dre Campbell, who's now Attorney General, right? Kim Janey, right? That was sort of the people that were on the council then. So there's an appetite. This is what I'm saying. There's an appetite, perhaps, to move the things forward, to do like we. The making of this law in 2020 was monumental, was game changer.
Sure.
But law is, I think, again, someone mentioned this in the panel discussion. Law is so much as it gets implemented.
Correct.
But it's not. No, it was well intentioned. It is well intentioned.
Sure.
There's a lot of good things in here.
Sure.
But once you start implementing it, which is what we're doing, then you can start seeing the gaps. And the hope is that over time, those gaps get filled, right? And then you have 5 more years. I mean, literally 5 years, right? So my hope is that in 5 years, perhaps things can change, right? But I'm not, for me personally, in my capacity now, I'm proud that we've been able to stabilize this thing, with this agency, this important agency. And I'm in there listening to the stories, and even when I was a prosecutor, there's you can't overstate the ability for an individual to feel like they're being heard and seen. To like when you listen to somebody's story and you listening to them and you putting them through the system. And yes, in the end, as a prosecutor, it's not guilty. The person was found not guilty for what they did. But the people, there's restorative justice that happens in that. And I'm seeing a lot of that when they come to my office. And they're being listened to. They come to the board and the board makes the decision. Yeah, sometimes the decisions that the boards make is not, people are not happy about it, and you can't make people whole. You do a restorative justice, right? So, but you come close to that. And I think this work is beyond sort of the productivity of the case and the outcome, and there's this humanity that we bring into the people that you can't overstate. And so I'm encouraged, and I'll continue to do what we're doing and continue to improve. And again, hopefully over time, things will change.
So I hear you. So I'm curious to hear some of those things that, if you're comfortable sharing, some of the things that you could say that we can do, because again, while there's progress and we applaud the progress, and as you said, it takes its time, right? It's not law. Massachusetts is very progressive.
Yes.
On paper, right? I mean, we sound liberal. We do all these wonderful things, but implementation, we're good at passing legislation that looks good, but the implementation, that's the teeth, right? The legislation gives us the ability to then be able to, say you broke the law, or you didn't do this, or you did, or to tweak, as you said, the ordinance or the law, right? So that there's more power to the people, right?
Yep.
Because as you're saying, I'm hearing you even say, so that was set up in the ordinances of the mayor appointing, right? Which to me, no disrespect. And again, we learn, like we have vision, we talk about, so we got to regroup. Having the mayor appoint the commissioner.
That's also by law.
That is by law,
Yes.
which is also, again, problematic, right? I had a conversation with Jamal, and I hope he can call in, because I don't want to share incorrectly, right? But I know, I'll just say this, that that needs to be, we need to look at maybe how we can be more, this may be him right here. Let's see. Boston President TV Network. All right, right on cue. Hold on, brother. Awesome. Let me just take him off this music off so he can actually hear what we're talking about. Perfect. Okay, brother Jamal, right on cue. How you doing, brother?
Peace, very well. How about y'all selves?
By the grace of God, I'm well.
I'm well.
Yes, indeed.
I'm well.
Yes, sir. Go right ahead, my brother.
So really, like, I would like to delve more into the, the subpoena power.
Okay.
And also too, I think a little bit, was discussed more about the appetite for police reform, and how it is that OPAT could be more empowered to compel, and not in the legal, usage of the term compel, but for officers and the administration to show up for the various hearings. And as you just heard, because you were at the meeting, of course, Larry Calderoni from the BPDA said that, there is no stoppage from them participating, at least from his, union perspective. So, what do you think?
I think that was directed to you.
Yes, it was.
Of course it was. Both of us, I wasn't there, so.
Yeah, Jamal, man. Great questions as always. And I want to shout you out again, because I think obviously you orchestrated the panel. I was happy to be there and continue to lead in this effort. I appreciate the work that you're doing. Subpoena power. We, as I said in that meeting, and unfortunately I don't want to go too much into the details.
Okay.
But I am, rather soon anticipating lifting that, bringing that up to bear, if you will. And so we're working behind the scenes to make that happen, and we'll see where that leads us. I can't speculate whether the officers will show or not show, but certainly the ordinance has clear guidelines in terms of our power there and what our remedies are if they don't show. But we have not, and that's been one of the points of reference for the community and the media, that we haven't used it because officers have not been showing. And as Larry said, it's not them saying telling officers not to go. The commissioner, the conversations I've had with them, he's not telling them not to come. So we're gonna force the issue. We're gonna have to force the issue and see where that lands us. And so that's number one. Number two, it's appetite for, as I said earlier, Jamal. I think the source of the power of this agency, because from its inception, it started from people like you. It started from the people, and the meeting that we both attended seems to me that there's an appetite to close some of those gaps. Now, I'm not prepared here to sort of. I have some thoughts, and I'm still thinking about. And I'm sure if there's a hearing on the city council as it was debated, I'll have more structured thoughts in that space. But I have some ideas. But I think largely, I know you have ideas. I know the city councils have ideas. So I think I'm focusing more on trying to keep up the good work and keep up pushing, using those authorities, including subpoena, doing more regulations, getting in the community. And then hopefully, as you all, including again you and the city council and others are driving the work, and the mayor and the media, and we'll see where we'll land. But I think right now there's a current, as I told my wife, there's a current that there's an appetite to do more here.
All right, good thanks. I wonder if there's anybody else listening who's going to call in, because this has been a very lively and vibrant conversation.
Thanks, man. Thanks. It's a Friday afternoon. You had, I told people you didn't subpoena me to be here like last time. You had me in that meeting for 3 hours, man. In the hot seat. And Friday afternoon, it's I'm doing this, but I no matter what, as I said in that meeting, Jamal, we work what we can, we do the best we can, and that's all. At the end of the day, I've been a public servant in the city for many. Unlike you, like you said, you perhaps been doing it decades. You got 10 years on me, as we discussed last time. But I'm here, man. Whatever capacity I am here, I do the best I can with the position. And I can rest my head one day knowing that I move the needle, no matter how small it is. I think I'll be proud of it, and particularly as I get older. You think about those things, right? It's not easy to be a public official in the city of Boston in many different ways. We see it. Longevity is unfortunately something that is shortcoming sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so. But a lot of it for me is I'm a paranoid guy. Get these positions. I take them serious. I'm a serious guy. It's by God's grace that I'm in this position. I intend to do the best I can. Sometimes I fall short like any human, but I continue to push forward. And we just had MLK. I know MLK, right? In a sense, we just had MLK's celebration, but I look up to people like that. Like these folks die. People have to die.
Sure.
So it's a privilege. For me to serve, but it's also hard work. And so I appreciate you always staying put. We know you were going to absolutely. I know he's listening because you stay. You don't sleep, man. As they say. But I'm glad. I'm happy that we've been able to work some in this space. And there's a lot more work to be done, but I really did. Even though I was in the hot seat, and when you're there, you were there, right? Yeah, it was for good cause, man. It's for good cause. And so we'll see, man. We'll see. But keep pushing on your end, and I'll do what I can on my end.
All right, good thanks. And the one thing about the quote unquote hot seat is as long as everybody keeps it respectful.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes, they did. And they did too. And you did a great job. It's been much worse. I've been in much worse situations than that. People were respectful. People, as I said, I shared the frustration. It's like all I can do is provide a response and an answer and do the best I can. But
Exactly.
some of those things that they're talking about, and people, and when you know, and you saw some of it, people come in with their stories, with their past, and a
Right.
lot of it, some of it didn't even have to do with police. All right, so people come in, you know, it's the rent, right? As you said, it's the development behind the building. The woman talked about that. So you know, you take people where you meet people where they are, but I enjoy, again, in the moment sometimes it can be tough. I'm not going to pretend like it isn't, but that's what the work is, and I thrive in spaces like that because I've been in those spaces in many different roles in the city, and so I'm privileged to still do it, and I'll do the best I can. But thanks again. There was times definitely that things could have gone left, and you came in. It's like, no, let's focus this way. So I appreciate. I think you did a good job. I think I mentioned to my team. I think you did a good job.
Thanks. That's me doing my Phil Donahue.
Yeah.
And so God bless y'all.
Before you go, go ahead. Before you go, brother, because what I want to say real quick, because we only got 6 minutes before we've got to go, and I really wanted to spend the bulk of the time to allow Evangel to articulate the report, the backdrop. So that's why it wasn't, a lively conversation. It was really, I wanted, and people can certainly called in and so forth. This is recorded; it will re-air. But I appreciate him coming in, and I appreciate you as again being kind of the visionary and who's been doing this, and as a person who is an organizer within community, who we do what we do out of our calling, really.
Correct.
Right? Our calling, and it's grassroots, it's for the people, and quite candidly, we were talking about this a little bit offline, is many times these movements get co-opted. That's the pattern from our perspective, particularly here. Grassroots stuff that wasn't going to happen, and it happens, and it gets, and then the politics of it dilutes it. Its intentionality. This happened with the Healing Our Land state of emergency, right, for the line item. But we learned from that. We continue. Now we're continuing as we're doing election stuff, right? So we learn, these things. And so I want to say to you, just really quickly, if you can articulate, because I wanted you to talk a little bit, if you can, about, because we're talking about the commissioner. We talked about the ordinance, right, being that the commissioner is appointed by the mayor. So I don't know if this is a good platform or place to be, but even to plant the seed, but we talked about maybe changing some of these kind of things, because even with the ability to be able to communicate and be able to feel, people can empathize and you feel good, and I understand the role of that in restorative justice and so forth. But as we're talking about, then restorative justice is a little bit different because it's kind of independent of, even though it's including some of these systems, it's, I don't know how to explain it, but it's
outside the system.
It's outside the system, right? And so when you got the commissioner who's appointed, when you got the boards that are appointed, and even though you have all of this, and they can veto, and you can feel heard, but nothing's changing. So we have to change, like maybe appointing the commissioner should maybe be elected, right? So I know. So if you can just share anything about how to give people hope. This is your vision. This is your baby, right? Like how we can. I heard subpoena power. I appreciate that, but ways that we can even go to the top to really be able to make this vision come to fruition in the way that you all work so hard to conceive.
Was that a me question?
It was a you question. That was you. That was for you.
So really quickly, in my mind of trying to examine everything on police reform, had thought about what if a police commissioner was elected. I ran that by many of my mentors and here and around the country, legal experts and whatnot. They quickly corrected me in my error of the thinking. So I was like, okay, that's probably not a good idea for all the scenarios that they laid out. I would like a more public process in the choosing of a police commissioner. I live in Boston, so obviously we're talking about Boston police commissioner. And that would only happen, of course, once this commissioner is gone, but just in the future. I think that the people, much like it actually should be a process, in my view, much like what happens when we have a Boston Public School Commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
And at least they have to go through a couple of community meetings and, you know, town hall forums and this type of thing. Ultimately, it's still going to be the mayor's appointment, but at least there is some sort of public discourse.
Mm-hmm.
Love it, love it. Thank you. I wanted you to articulate that because again, as the visionary of this, you know, movement, and these conversations are going to continue, right? So again, I want to thank you for coming in and being in the hot seat. Thank you, Jamal, for your leadership in community as well as continuing to kind of facilitate to move this forward. So with that said, either of you, what would you say to people or both of you within the community who are feeling, to give them some sense of hope and to continue to be engaged in this process of this vision coming to fruition optimally?
Jamal, you want to go?
No, sir. You go.
I think the engagement is what's critical to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was. I'm trying to figure out who said this quote before I said it. Frederick Douglass. Okay. We can't afford, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit. We can't afford to despair. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, engage.
Mm-hmm.
Like that meeting that we had with people in there.
Mm-hmm.
That will move the ball forward.
So your suggestion would be continue
to engage, right? Don't say the system is what it is.